get started with Coach Bolt. First question will be Chris Bassinet.
Hey, Will, good to see you now that the season's here and you're a few days away from playing an actual game. I guess how do your coaching staff balance, trying to get opportunities for guys, but also trying to get guys into a rhythm with no, midweeks, no non-conference, and all those sorts of things.
Yeah, that's a great question. We've made it pretty clear with our team if there's ever been a year where 1 through 38 on the roster need to be ready to play and ready to contribute and ready to help win, that this is the year where there's so much uncertainty, so many different things that could pop up that are really out of our control in a lot of ways. So we've been harping on that not only for the last few weeks of practice here, but going back to the fall as well. So we're going to have to play right away the guys that we feel like are going to give us the best chance to win and not really have a chance to ease some guys in there that may be a little iffy on defense or base running or signs or the strike zone, those kind of things. The 4-game series is certainly going to present possibly some more opportunities for innings pitched in there. But yeah, I mean, it's all hands on deck. We're going to play the best guys that we feel like are going to give the best chance to win. But ultimately, we could be throwing a curveball at any point in time, and all those guys got to be ready.
Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald.
Hey, Will, in that same vein, what are some extra precautions that you guys as a team are taking, especially on the road, and how much thought goes into that from meals to hotels and everything? What are some things you guys are doing extra in this strange year?
Yeah, a lot more thought goes into that stuff than just the baseball side of things. Usually we're only worried about the baseball side, and we've got great support staff that usually is taking care of the other stuff, but it's kind of a collaborative effort this year. Precautions, it's just there's a pretty tight bubble. We've asked our guys to be in since the fall, limiting their access to people that aren't inside our bubble. And then on the road, it's going to be even more important we're going to basically be at the field or the hotel, and that's about it, besides being in an airport and on an airplane or a bus. So we're going to have all the meals there for them at the hotel or at the field, and there's not going to be a ton of extracurriculars, if any. I mean, it's basically, you always talk about it being a business trip. I mean, that's essentially exactly what it looks like. It's if you're not at the field, you're basically in your hotel room and until it's time to go again. So it's going to be different. Our guys they've been making sacrifices for quite a while now, since going back to the fall. And now that it's go time, they're going to do what it takes to have a chance to compete. So.
And could you describe maybe the stakes that go with that? What happens if there is an outbreak? Like, how long are guys out, and how motivated is everybody to play after obviously you guys didn't get a full season last year?
Yeah, highly motivated. I mean, we're going to do everything we can to stay as safe as possible, and even doing that, there's no guarantee that there's not going to be an issue. So again, those are things that our guys are highly motivated to do, to take care of, to do the right things, and to just do what it takes to compete. And like I said, it's going to be an odd dynamic, doing things a little bit different this year. But if given the opportunity, March 15th of 2020, and you told a group of guys, hey, these are some of the sacrifices that you have to make in order to compete, they would have all taken them in a heartbeat. So that's the way we look at it.
Next question, Michael Bruntz, 247 Sports.
Hey, Will, the last few weeks of you guys have kind of ramped up to the start of the season. I guess, what have you seen from your team? Have you liked the way that they're getting ready for the start of the season here?
Yeah, it's we've been going at it for quite a while. I mean, our guys got back on January the 4th with the semester starting a little bit early, and we didn't actually start our 20-hour weeks until the end of January. So we've been able to ramp up, like you said, a little bit longer. Gotten a little creative with some of the practices, just trying to keep it fresh. The month of February presented a lot of challenges with the weather, the sub-zero temps for a few weeks at a time. We were indoors, and that's something we're accustomed to doing here. We know that that's part of the deal, but to to kind of put it in perspective, our guys have been as motivated and as enthusiastic and energetic as any team I've ever been around in terms of preparation for a season, and that's with all the unknowns and uncertainties and maybe some of the frustration with not having a schedule, not knowing what it's going to look like, and then finding out it's going to be less than everybody else and it's going to be conference only. Our guys are super resilient. They've been incredibly mentally tough throughout this deal. We've got some great leadership on our team. It's a testament to them and their ability just to show up and try to keep a mindset of we're just going to get better today. And that's what we've done. That's honestly, I can say that without a shadow of a doubt, that's what we've done over the course of the last 2 months, just with our preparation for the season. Is our guys have had a awesome attitude. They've been a lot of fun to be around. They've worked hard. They haven't really, asked for much except just an opportunity to get out and get after it. And they've done that. And I know they're ready to go.
One quick one. Where are you guys health-wise to start the year? I mean, are there guys that are not going to be available this weekend or maybe long-term?
Yeah, Colby Gomez, he's had a setback. He was rehabbing and got almost to the point of having a chance to get on the mound, and unfortunately, he's not going to have a chance to compete this spring. Without going into too many specifics, he just wasn't able to come back from a previous injury in the fall. Unfortunately, he's worked really hard to get back in that spot, and to have that disappointment, I feel for him more than anything. But he won't have a chance to compete this spring. Just some minor things here and there with guys, just with the normal preseason ramp-up time. Shouldn't be anything other than that keeps anybody out for any extended period of time.
Thanks.
You bet.
Next one, Kevin Suits.
Hey, Will, you mentioned just a few minutes ago about the frigid temperatures we had about a month ago. Have you guys been able to get outside recently? And how much did that maybe, I guess, add some juice to what you guys are working toward here?
Yeah, we have. We've had 3 or 4 team practices at Memorial Stadium out at Tom Osborne Field out there. We've moving around, just getting the outfielders some fly balls, basically just getting in fresh air and having to throw a cold ball on some days. We've been outside, I guess, now for the better part of the last week preparing. We've been at the football practice field, and we were fortunate enough to practice and get a couple of scrimmages over the weekend at Den Hartog Field here in Lincoln. They were very gracious in letting us use their facility. They've got brand new turf. It's a beautiful setup. They worked hard to get some snow pushed off and got us on the field last Friday. So we got about 18 innings of scrimmage time in that we didn't think we'd have a shot to get in at all. So we'll leave. We'll get on a plane tomorrow. We'll have a chance to practice 2 times in Texas as well before we start playing on Friday. So we have been outside the last week, and it definitely has boosted, I think, just the morale as far as being able to kind of get some fresh air. You get a little bit cooped up indoors, and I know the guys have been excited to get outside.
So how do you position a baseball field inside Memorial Stadium? Like, how do you angle it, or do you even try to simulate a field?
You can't necessarily get a real feel for it. I mean, it's basically just like it is when we go in the Hawks Championship Center. You set up a field that has a full infield, and then you've got either center and right or center and left. And then you end up flipping the field if you want to get some work on the other side. So you can't necessarily get a legitimate look at a baseball field, but it gives you at least a little bit of a setup in an outdoor setting.
Next question, Cole Peterson.
Hey, Coach. Without fans this year, how important is it going to be for you guys to start games quick? Obviously, with longer weekends, 3 to 4 games, where are you guys going to find that energy late in games?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something that none of us have ever had to deal with before when it comes to limited number of fans in the stands and that type of thing. I know a lot of guys made the decision to come to Nebraska because our fans are so great. So. But that being said, baseball is a game anyway where the motivation from external factors, if that's what's driving you to be good, then you're probably not going to be a very consistent team. You might get up for big, quote unquote, big games and then struggle against games where you don't feel like they're as important as some others. So, you try to take all those things out of it anyway as a baseball player, and those are things that we try to, preach to our players on a normal year. Is just your motivation and your drive has got to come from within, and you've got to be able to just focus on the task at hand, the pitch at hand, the inning at hand, the play at hand, and not look too far ahead of anything other than that. And so that's going to present a different challenge for us. I mean, we're just not used to it. We're not used to having limited people in the stands, and we'll see what it looks like when we get there. But I think just the normal things that you talk about with teams and players is that motivation from within, and that's going to be put to the test this year more than ever.
All right, guys, we'll get time for one more, and then we're going to move on to players. Last one, Andrew Ward.
Hey, Will, you kind of talked about this a little bit, but just watching the volleyball team and the men's basketball team this year, problems that they've had, is there to start the season here with everything going on there?
You're kind of cutting out, Andrew.
Hey, Will, is there with volleyball and the men's basketball teams, with their COVID games they've missed with COVID, has there been any worry at all from your end about the pandemic at all and the protocols you got to follow with that?
Is there a worry? Oh yeah. That's something on our plate that we don't normally have to worry about, but it is a worry. It is something that you've seen in every sport, and nobody's been immune to it. It's thrown loops into seasons all across the country, and Nebraska is not unique to that. And our conference, it's not going to. I would be surprised if we make it through the entire season in our conference only games and play all 44 games and without any issues from any teams. I mean, it's just, unfortunately, that's what the last calendar year has shown us. So, am I worried about it? Yeah, it makes me stay up at night sometimes thinking about it. But again, it's one of those things. I mean, we do everything we can to stay safe. It doesn't guarantee anything, but is it something that could be a factor? Absolutely.
Hey, Chance, now that the season's here and you've kind of gone through the off season, what's your experience been like, coming up to Lincoln and getting ingrained with the program and kind of growing with this team, and what have you seen so far?
Yeah, it's been great getting to know all these guys. It was kind of a shock just coming here after spending 4 years. I kind of thought my college career was over, and then I got to come up here, and it's been really great getting to know the guys and growing. I've loved Lincoln ever since I got here. It's been a bit cold for me, but I've gotten used to it and kind of felt like I've settled in and really like where I'm at. And I really like where the team's at, and I'm just really excited to get started.
Go ahead, Chris, if you got another one.
What's it been like, just going through practices, since early January with all the protocols you guys have to follow with trying to be safe and careful and everything, and now knowing that the schedule's pretty limited, conference only, and a positive test or a couple of them could derail a season. What's that been like for you guys, just from a mental standpoint, trying to prepare with all that?
It's been different for sure. We just have to do everything we can, and even then it doesn't really guarantee us anything. You can wear your mask and do everything right, and then you go to the grocery store and touch something, and then you get it there. So we've been cautious. We've been trying to do our best. our social interaction is limited to amongst ourselves. It's board game nights or just hanging out amongst ourselves. But practices, just wearing the mask, trying to do everything right, washing your hands. We have hand sanitizer stations all over. That's really been different. As far as preparing as a player, practices not really different. Just show up, get your work in. It's been a bit different with group work and that sort of thing, but as far as getting ready to pitch, I mean, I'm throwing my bullpens normal times and just getting ready to go.
Evan Bland.
Hey, Chance, I was going to ask kind of a similar question, just in terms of, can you think of some examples of things that a year ago would have seemed odd or strange as a baseball player that have become normal, just different practices, or things that are coming up on this road trip that you guys are doing that seem normal now, that maybe wouldn't have a year ago?
Yeah, I think a lot of just the COVID protocols are just very, I don't know, it's a lot different for sure. I think some of the rooming assignments are based off who you kind of are associated with, so you don't spread COVID outside of your circle. So I think that's a bit weird. I'd say just the mask. It's kind of weird that I'm used to wearing this gaiter all the time, and you're used to not have to wear that. It's kind of a weird piece for me. But as far as specific examples, I can't really think of any off the top of my head.
If I could, I was going to ask you too, just about Purdue this weekend. What kind of threat does their lineup present, and what have you noticed when you've been scouting those guys?
I haven't really dove into them too much. I try not to overwhelm myself with too much information too early. I'll typically try and get some information the day before, and that'll kind of lead me into where I'm at. But for me, I like to know the speed of the runners, and I like to know the power threats. So I try not to get too much into swings and everything, because then I psych myself out, and we don't want to do that.
Mike Babcock.
Yeah, Chance, you mentioned the cold. Was there ever a point at which, when we got all that snow and your distance from home, was it difficult for you to say, I'm going to stick this out, and who helped you get through that?
I was never really too worried about it. I've been away from home for a while now. I went originally from California to New Mexico for 4 years, so that was a bit of a distance, but the cold was definitely different. I have some family here. My aunt and my uncle are down in Beatrice area, so they would come up and take me to dinner, and that was kind of nice. So I did feel like I had a little bit of connection to home. But as far as that snow and everything, it was a bit weird. I never really felt too alone because I was scared to drive, so I always had people driving me places.
You never had any second thoughts about maybe coming to Nebraska was not a good idea?
No, when I got here, I thought it was a great fit after probably about a month, and then, I've thought that ever since. But the cold definitely got me a little bit, but never made me wish that I wasn't here.
All right, last one for Chance. Kevin Suits.
Chance, I have to ask about your amazing mustache. How long have you been wearing that? And does it look like you got a nice curl going on there on this side?
I've been trying to curl it. It's still a work in progress, that's for sure. And I have been growing it for a while. It has not been easy. I've been working hard at it, and yeah, I'm hoping to keep it, get the curl going better, and then if I start throwing poorly, then I'll shave it off. But until then, I think I'll keep it and try and make it look as Raleigh Fingers-esque as possible.
Is it the best mustache on the team?
Yeah, for now. I think if Mojo tried to beat me, he could beat me in about 3 days. But as of this moment, I think it is.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, we'll switch over to Cade Povich. First up, Michael Brutz.
Hey, Cade. Just want to go back to last year real quick. I mean, you pitched, I think, better than maybe what your numbers suggested last season. Obviously, had a great summer. I guess kind of how did that kind of first time through D1 baseball, even though it was kind of limited with the season being cut short, how did that kind of help you, I guess, kind of improve as a pitcher and kind of get used to things?
Yeah, I mean, all the guys here are good that you're going to face. I think that first time through kind of let me see where I am at currently, and I think those few games I was able to learn a little bit more about myself and kind of the adjustments that I needed to make in order to become the pitcher I want to be, and I think I carried that over into the summer, and talking to the coaches about some of those things was able to work on that and correct it for this upcoming season.
I guess how are you a different pitcher starting this year than maybe you were last season?
Yeah, I mean, we added another pitch. We added a cutter. Kind of worked on getting all my pitches to be more consistent throughout each outing. And then as far as locating, being more, I guess, out of the zone, as much as to say I threw a lot of strikes last year, and unfortunately some of those pitches were more over the plate than we wanted to, and we're probably the reason for some of the runs that I might have given up last year.
Kevin Suits.
Cade, do you have an idea in the rotation? I guess you guys as a pitching staff, how you guys will line up for this weekend series at Purdue?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some sort of idea. I think right now we kind of all just are ready to kind of dip our toes in and get the ball rolling. I mean, we've all been waiting a long time to finally get out on that mound, and I think right now we're focusing on preparing for that first series.
Evan Bland.
Cade, Coach Bolt mentioned Colby's injury is going to keep him out this year. I'm just curious, as a fellow pitcher, what kind of message do you have for a guy who has that kind of news? And then, who are some other guys that you've seen maybe who can fill in at that back end of the bullpen for you guys this year?
Yeah, I mean, kind of one of the first things I think when I heard the news is I reached out to Colby and obviously made sure everything went well with kind of what he's got going on, and it's kind of one of those things, you feel for a guy, especially being next to him, watching him work all this time up, especially with how he's been rehabbing and all the hard work he's put in. So you kind of just have to stand by his side. I mean, Colby's kind of one of the guys. There's not really anybody, I guess, that can replace him. But we have guys that are going to be able to step up to that opportunity, and I think we're in a lot better situation than we might have been last year as far as guys who have come back better or newcomers that are kind of stepping up, and I think we're in a pretty good spot.
I just wanted to ask you quick too about just some of the COVID protocols you guys are going through this year, and maybe it's starting to seem normal, I guess, at this point. But what are some things that you guys are doing or putting in place for this season so you'll be able to stay healthy and play most of the year?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of wearing masks when we're around everybody. Obviously, when we're not home, that's the priority, is to try and stay as safe as possible with hand sanitizer, our masks, and getting tested. We have testing protocol 3 times a week, and making sure everybody's healthy and kind of staying within our bubbles, like Coach and Chance said, when we're out of town, and making sure we're not doing anything to affect ourselves and affect the team.
Cole Peterson.
Hey, Cade. Obviously, a lot of fresh faces here for the Husker pitching staff. Will Bolt's touched on it, just the amount of depth you guys have at pitching this year. What are your thoughts on the pitching staff going into the year? What's impressed you? What have you noticed about it? And then how do you, as a fellow pitcher, react to them and help them through their first year as a Husker?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I think one of the things we struggled with last year was throwing strikes from the start to the end of the game, and I think that's one thing. If we broke down, which I think Coach Christie has kind of talked about where we were at last year as far as you know, throwing first pitch strikes and overall strike percentage and winning those 1-1 counts. Our percentage of throwing strikes out of those are much higher this year, and obviously when you throw strikes, you're going to get a lot more outs because of that. Guys in this league aren't going to go chasing at balls. So I mean that's we're at a whole nother level as far as that, and then I mean most of the young guys are already pretty mature coming in, and so it's just kind of guiding them, answering any questions they might have, and making sure they're on the right path.
All right, last one, Kevin Supes.
Cade, we talked to Coach Bolt about the practices you've had inside Memorial Stadium. As a pitching staff, what kind of work do you guys get done when you go inside the stadium? Or is there much? You just shag and fly balls?
Yeah, I mean, we'll play catch in there. We still pretty much run through the same practice we would in the Hawks Champion Center. We'll split up into group work on some picks and rundowns, bunt coverages, first and thirds, whatever. Just kind of making sure we're in base on all the signs as far as bunts and first and thirds may go.
All right, guys. Thanks for the time today. We'll have this again next Wednesday.